Hello, everyone, and welcome to our LIM College webinar on the topic of visa and compliance session. I see that people are already slowly joining, so welcome, welcome. Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Now, while we wait for everyone to join, just a couple of housekeeping rules. If you have any questions throughout the session, kindly use the Q&A section. That's not chat section, but Q&A section, and we will try to answer all questions throughout the session. And we also have some time at the end of the session to answer your question. You're all on mute, so if you have any questions, kindly place them in the Q&A section. And today I'm very happy for this webinar to have George Lido as one of the speakers, which is AVP of Enrollment Services, Graduate and International for LIM College. Hi, George, how are you?
Good morning, Sally. I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you very much. And myself, I am Saula, and I'm the Operations and Compliance Manager at InUni. And today we're covering a very important topic, which is your visa journey or your student's visa journey, what to expect, how to best prepare for the journey, and mistakes to avoid. We're also going to have a bit of a mythbuster session where George and I are going to speak about the most common myths we hear in the market or even from students and talk about what's actually real and what is not. But before we start that, I'll pass it to George for the next topic, which is how to apply for an F1 visa interview. George, up to
All
you.
right. Excellent. Thank you so much, Sally, and so happy to be here with everyone again. My name is George Toledo, and I'm currently the Assistant Vice President of Enrollment Services for Graduate and International Admissions here at LIM College. And again, so excited to speak with all of you and assist you with going through the I-22 F1 process. So let's talk about the extensive process to get to F1 visa. First, in order to apply for the F1, you'll need to receive a Form I-20 from the university or college that you have been admitted to in the US. This Form I-20 will prove that you have been admitted into the institution and that you are eligible to then move forward and receive F1 and attend the institution for your education. Once you do have the Form I-20 or that certificate of eligibility, you'll move forward and pay the I-901 or the CVIS fee. This is a $350 fee that goes directly to the US government. I know that many of our students pay application fees and enrollment deposits and all of that good stuff as they move through their application process. Do keep in mind this fee does go directly to the US government and then makes you eligible to schedule your F1 visa interview. It does not go back to the college or university. But the next step is to pay that CVIS fee. Once you have paid that I-901 or the CVIS fee, you'll complete your DS-160 form, which is the online application for the F1 non-immigrant visa. Once you've submitted your DS-160, you'll move forward and you'll pay an application fee. It's an MRV fee. Right now it's $185, and that fee does secure your DS-160 and allows you to move forward and then schedule that F1 visa interview. You will then schedule a visa interview at a U.S. embassy or consulate nearest to you in your home country or the country in which you are a permanent resident for any specific reason outside of your country of nationality. But you will schedule that visa interview. Once scheduled, you'll, of course, attend that F1 visa interview. We'll go over some tips later on for this interview in the session, but the interviews are generally very brief. Do be sure to bring all required documents with you. Generally speaking, that's all documents submitted toward your I-20 application, the CVIS fee receipt. Students will often bring their admissions documents as well. Always be sure to check the embassy's website to ensure that you're bringing all documentation with you. It's always better to be over-prepared than under-prepared, but you will attend that interview. And then upon completing the interview, the hope is always to receive approval for that F1 visa. But once completing the interview, you will receive a decision whether you've been approved or denied for that F1. And we always hope again for the positive. Once approved for F1, you'll then plan your travel into the US and arrive in the US to begin your studies. Do keep in mind, as an initial F1 student entering the US for the first time as a student, you are not eligible to enter the country any more than 30 days before the start of your program. So do keep that date in mind as well. It will be listed on your I-20. So going back to the first step in this process, if you do arrive any earlier than 30 days, there's a chance you might not be admitted into the US, or you could be admitted as a tourist on a B visa. So it's incredibly important that you do enter within 30 days to be eligible for F1 status, and then, of course, begin your studies soon after. All right, and so now let's talk about the document checklist for your F1 interviews. So most of these documents will also be due when you're submitting your I-20 application toward your institution as well. But number one, your institution and the US government is going to want to see that you do have a valid passport. So a passport that is designated for your country of nationality, that you do currently, again, have a valid passport to be able to travel into the US. Generally speaking, you'll also want to ensure that your passport is valid for up to 6 months after your program start as well. You'll need to have that Form I-20 from your institution. There is on the I-20 a student attestation where you do need to sign and date as well. That will essentially activate the I-20 when you're moving forward to secure that F1 visa. So again, do be sure to secure that Form I-20 and have it signed as well. Do pay that I-901 CVIS fee and do keep that confirmation receipt on you when you move forward for the interview as well. I also advise for students when you're entering the US, keep that CVIS fee receipt on you as well so that you can show the consular officers that you did pay that fee however many months ago when you were first going through the initial process. Also keep with you your confirmation for submitting that form DS-160. Financial documents are going to be required. All students, in order to move forward with the issuance of a Form I-20 from the university or college, will need to prove that they have all tuition, fees, and living expenses and liquid assets for the first year of their academic program. So do be sure to provide those documents to your institution and keep them on you when you're moving forward to complete that interview, as well as when you're crossing the border and traveling into the US. It's always great to have those documents ready that you did use to have that Form I-20 issued to you. Have your letter of verification as well as your letter of acceptance, which is more than likely going to be needed when you are moving through the initial process. But again, it's always good to have those documents handy when you're moving forward for F1 visa interview, and then of course crossing the border and traveling into the US. All right. And so, as I mentioned, some of those documents are going to come a little earlier on in the process. In order to be issued a Form I-20 by the college or university that you have been admitted into, you will need to show proof of financial resources. So, all institutions are going to require that you do have the funding and liquid assets for the first academic year of your program, and that's incorporative of all tuition, fees, and again, living expenses associated with attending your program in the US. A majority of students, I know a lot of our students here at LIM College, will use funds from a sponsor. Sponsors include mom, dad, grandmother, grandfather, close relatives. I always tell students, even if it is your parent, if the financial documentation is in anyone's name other than your own, we'll also need an affidavit of financial support from that sponsor as well. This sponsor in that affidavit is guaranteeing these funds to that student. This affidavit is certifying to the US government that they'll be issuing the students these funds and supporting them through their education. And the affidavit will let us know exactly how much within that bank statement the student is being allocated. So it's always important have the financial resources ready, and then again, have your sponsor complete that affidavit alongside submitting those documents as well. And then again, after receiving that Form I-20, you'll receive your CVIS ID, which will then allow you to move forward with the DS-160, I-901 fee, and then scheduling that F1 visa interview. All right, so let's talk a little bit about CBIS. So, CBIS is the Student and Exchange Visitor Information System, which is a web-based system that does maintain all information for non-immigrant students and exchange visitors in the US. So, folks like me who are designated school officials at their institutions have access into this system where we can assist students through the process, whether that's, again, issuing an initial I-20 for students to attend our programs, or we'll talk about this a little later on, but issuing I-20s for CPT and OPT, issuing our students travel endorsements when they're leaving the US and returning during break periods, etc. CVIS is the internal system with the US government that all of us use to manage these documents. International students will typically require an F1 visa. If you are not a US citizen, you're a citizen for another country or nationality outside of the US, and you are looking to come in and study in the US, generally speaking, you are seeking an F1 visa. And in order to do this, you must have the I-20 and again pay that I-901 or CVIS fee. I did mention early on, I can't reiterate this enough, that CVIS fee is $350. Currently, it is paid directly to the US government. Again, it's not going back to the institution that you've been admitted into and that you're planning to enroll and matriculate with. This fee goes directly to the US government and does allow you to then move forward with the process. In most cases, it can be paid online. There is a link where you can pay the CVIS fee using any kind of debit or credit card. International credentials are generally fine. Some countries are required to pay using a Western Union. If that is a specific option for you, will be noted when you are paying the I-901. It will designate your country, but in most cases, it can be paid online using debit or credit card. All right. And so the DS-160 is the form students need to complete to apply for the visa. After you have submitted your DS-160 application, once it's complete and submitted, you then pay the non-refundable fee, that MRV fee, which is right now, depending on country, between about 160 to 185. Once the form is completed, you'll need to print that out and keep that DS-160 barcode on you when you are attending your interview. This is an important step in that intricate process as well. The barcode for your DS-160 must match the interview that you've scheduled. So you do submit one DS-160 to then schedule an interview. And again, do be sure that those barcodes match. Once you have scheduled your F1 appointment at the embassy or consulate, you should do so as soon as possible. I will always emphasize for students to get this process started as early on in the springtime into the early summer as possible. As we approach the summer months, we'll generally start to see increased visa wait times across the world. So it is important to not only get this process done correctly, but also to do it in a timely manner to ensure prompt arrival in the US to begin your program. All right, and so we'll go through the application for F1 visa. Number one, of course, you'll need to be accepted into a SEVP approved institution, so a college or university in the US that is approved to host international students. You'll receive that I-20, pay the I-901, complete the DS-160, of course, schedule an interview. Most students will be required to complete a biometrics interview first, which is normally a day or two before the actual interview. Then you'll go back in and complete the interview formally in person.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, George, for walking us through the how to receive a visa, really, how to go through the visa journey. And I do hope that for everyone, it's a lot more clear now what needs to be done and what is included in the student journey. But now let's talk about the actual visa interview, the F1 visa interview, and how can you prepare yourself if you're a student? And so before the F1 visa interview, so we recommend that for the most up-to-date list of required documents, you would always check your local US consulate website. The purpose of this interview is to determine whether the students plan to return to home country after studying and whether they can afford to stay in the US for the whole duration of their studies. A Sorry, I did cut off there for a moment. I hope you heard me, but the whole idea is that your interview might vary depending on the time. Some of the students might be asked only one question, the other ones might be asked two or three. However, you can never know which question the student will be asked. So I do advise everyone to do their research. And the research, what you should do the research about. Really, I can give you the guidelines, and the guidelines are here on the slide. But think about it. If you're planning, let's say, to buy a house or buy a car, you wouldn't just go online on Facebook Marketplace and press buy on the first car you see. You would do your research. You would see what else is in the market. You would see if perhaps you can buy a house in a different city or a different region. You would do a regular research on any investment. Studying is an investment, both your money, but mostly to your future. So you wouldn't just jump into your next step in life, and a massive step in life, such an exciting step in life, without doing any research. But if you still want some guidelines of what you should do research about, number one, think about finances. So your tuition fee and living expenses, and as well as your sponsor details. So George went through all the documents you will need to prepare. But documents are not enough. While they need to be clean, prepared, and everything needs to be perfectly documented in order to receive a visa, you should also be able to speak about your finances. I know that depending of where you come from, your social background, and so on, it might be a bit uneasy to speak about finances sometimes. However, a visa interview is not a place to be shy. Even if you are just graduating high school and never had your own money that you earned yourself and your parents are fully paying for your studies, you should still know how much is your tuition fee and living expenses and other financial related topics, because it's still your future that it's invested for. Motivation and interest, that's a really important one. And students often forget about it. It's not only where, what, where, and when, and how. It's also why. Why is it important to you? Why do you want to study? Showing motivation, it will not hinder you at all. If anything, that's the thing that will help you pass the most. Presentation is also really important. So think about dress code. Think semi-formal if you really want formal, but don't go below that. Think about your social media. We'll speak about that slightly later in the presentation. And document preparation. Don't come with all wrinkled documents all over the place and all over your bags. Have everything organized. That will help you stay not nervous at all. Be on time as well. That's something I forgot to mention. And as I know that in this webinar, we have people from all over the world, I'm going to be extremely specific. Be on time means be early. How early? Up to you. I'd say minimum half an hour early. You don't know. Maybe the door will have, it's going to say pull in the door and you're going to keep on pushing out of stress and you're going to waste 15 minutes. You're late to your visa appointment, visa rejected. Don't risk it. Maybe there's going to be a queue. Maybe there's going to be something happening outside. Or maybe you'll just take a wrong turn with your car and be 2 minutes late. So be early. It is actually really advised you're early because punctuation is also a very, very valuable skill and something that I would advise you to practice not only for a visa interview, but for visa interview, definitely really important. Living in the US. So your travel arrangement, what do you know about a campus and accommodation, and so on. So quite a lot of times I hear students say that, oh, I don't know about accommodation. I really don't care until I get my visa. Do you need to book accommodation light years before? No. But do you need to know the information of how much might it cost? How far away is it from campus? Do you need to stay on campus or not? This is something you need to understand even if you're not pre-booking. Future plans, so ties to your home country and plans after your study. When you think about your plans after your studies, don't just talk about your personal plans. Think about how this course will help you with your future plans. Institution details. So what do you know about LIM? Why is it unique from other institutions? Why is it unique from other colleges? Study modules, and it's up to you, but you can dig as far as looking at alumni, professors. It's really up to you which research you decide to do, as long as you do it and you do show the passion and understanding about the course and the institution. Refresh yourself on personal details, so work and study history and what's unique about you. Now, why do I say refresh yourself about work and study history? Oh, of course, you studied it, you had that job, you should remember. But what you don't want to happen is when you're already nervous and the visa officer asks you, when did you graduate? And you're standing there like, oh my God, if it's 2025, I think it's hard to forget. The older you get, the harder it is to remember how old are you. Therefore, it's sometimes hard to remember when you graduated. So just in order not to look suspicious, remember all the dates when you graduated, traveled, your previous travels as well. Perhaps you had previous visa rejections. Remember the dates as well. So just refresh yourself on your own history, really. And travel details are really important as well. So previous international travels of your family members. Now, one of the main questions I get here is, what if I do have a visa refusal? Is this the end of the road for me? Well, what happens here? So it's definitely not the end of the road. We saw students being rejected twice, 3 times, even more, and still getting a visa. One thing you really shouldn't do is lie about your visa rejection. The officers have it all on screen while interviewing you. And if you tell them you don't have visa rejection and they say on the screen that you do, and that goes with any information, if you lie, you're going to get a visa refusal. And there's different kinds of visa refusals. And with some, you can still stand and try again. With the lying ones, you're likely never going to get a visa again if you lied directly to the visa officer. So what do? First of all, you're honest about it. Number 2, you clearly state when asked again, which country, which year, and what type of visa. And think about, how did your circumstances change since then? If you applied to, let's say, UK or Australia, there's reasons for your visa rejection very clearly listed. While other countries are not that clear, but feel free to also read through the letter and see that, because the reason will always be listed, and think, how did your circumstances have changed since then? Right, let's go to the next slide, which is common interview mistakes. So where do we see students fail their visa interviews? So number 1 is not enough research. We already spoke about it. If you're making a big purchase, you do your research. Well, when you're investing to your future, you should definitely do your research. Not to be mistaken by learning information by heart. The visa officer does not want to hear a list of facts you learned about LIM. What they want to hear is, why are you interested in studying here? But the list of facts might also get you rejected, because really, how many trees are there on campus or exact postcode of the address? That doesn't really show anything. It just shows that you can read and can go online to read information. What you need to do is do your own personal research, and throughout your research, think, why do I actually want to study that or this course? Providing scripted and generic answers. At the moment, we see this as number 1 reason for students failing the visa interview. What is a scripted answer? Let's start with the scripted answers. In today's world, where ChatGPT is widely available and not only the only source of how to answer questions, I'll give you one advice. Visa officers don't have a script. Therefore, script generating mechanisms will not be able to answer questions of that script, because visa officer scripts do not exist. So let's say you're a student, somebody hands you a script, or you go online and you learn by heart answers to 101 questions. Wonderful. The visa officer might ask you question 152 because they don't have script. So you cannot You cannot prepare by heart for something that doesn't have a script. Another thing that I would like to say is that there's a reason why actors all over the world are paid so much. It's because it's practically impossible to take somebody else's words and reenact as if it's coming from your heart. I doubt that any of us would be able to do so. So doing your own script is doing your own research and not being on script is what actually will give you a heads up. Now, at the same time, my team and I, we do hundreds of interviews a week, thousands a month. And a student says one sentence and we know they're scripted. How? It's the robotic answers. It's the cliche answers that we hear over and over and over again. And I hear so many complaints by students. Oh, but I only said one sentence and I got rejected. Was it a cliche? Was it from a script someone gave you? Was it from ChatGPT? Because we can smell that from light years away, and so can US visa officers. And so what are scripted answers? And this one's again another example. For example, a student says, after completing this course, I want to work at Nestle, Facebook, or Google. Wonderful, that's a great answer, but why these companies? Have you tried applying to a job there? In which countries are these offices located? How will this course help you achieve it? What is your plan B? And so on and so on and so on. So if a student, if you are stating something that's not true to yourself or you haven't done research, you will not be able to hold a conversation. And it doesn't matter what type of interview you're going through your life, be it a visa interview for US or even your job interview, it's a conversation. It's not a test. And you should be able to hold that conversation. Now, what are generic answers? Generic answers are the ones where you could insert any country, any institution, and the sentence would still work. For example, I chose to study in US because so many students want to study there, and it has been my dream since I was a child. I want to study in Germany because of it. I want to study in Italy because of it. I want to study in Norway because of it. It's not specific to US, therefore it's generic. Another example I could give you outside of the education sector is, let's say you're traveling the world and you booked a hotel and somebody asks you, why did you book this hotel? And your answer is because it has a bed. Well, why would you book a hotel without a bed? It's the same as I want to study at LIM because it has a library. Excuse me, show me a college in US that doesn't have a library. I would really love to see that. That's a generic answer. That's an answer that fits any university, any location, any course even. And it's also those answers with a lot of cliche sayings. Right. Poor communication is also one of the reasons of failing an interview. What do we mean by that? So inability to effectively communicate and convince the interviewer about the applicant's genuine intention, academic goals, plans after completing the study program can impact the outcome of the interview. Now, I hear a lot, why are you even presenting about the poor communication skill? It's not really something that students can practice or change. However, they can. They really, really can. So what students should do is avoid really short answers. So like 2 words and being done, but also avoiding telling their life story when they're not asked about going like in Hollywood movies. Let me tell you how I get here. Now, that's not what these officers want. What they want is a precise answer to a precise question. We see a lot where students are asked, let's say, about why US, and they start answering with why US and then wind down slowly through many, many speeches, sentences, and words to why LIM and why this course and how they're going to return to their home country. Answer questions that you're asked, not questions that you're anticipated will come after. Also, my advice is stick to answers from 3 to 5 sentences, short sentences, not sentences that last paragraphs. How do you do that? Well, honestly, it's not that hard. Practice with your friends, practice with the mirror, practice with us. Just try to hold a conversation, because an interview, again, is a conversation. It's not an essay, it's not a test. information inaccuracy, so providing false, misleading, or inaccurate information, whether it be related to previous visa history, family ties in US, and etc. So we touched upon it slightly before. Quick reminder again, visa officer sees a lot of information about you. Lying about anything would put you into a visa rejection that would be extremely hard to go back from. And with that, hopefully, we're going to have visas approved. And with that, I'm going to pass it to George with tips and tricks for maintaining your visa status.
Excellent. Thank you, Saleh. And I can't agree with those points anymore. It's incredibly important during the interview to maintain a positive attitude, number one, but be brief in your answers. You do not need to give them more than what they're asking, but do try to avoid one word or very curt or short answers. Be authentic, be genuine. We do have at LIM, I can say, we're very specific and very uh, key institution in the business of fashion and lifestyle. So our students are coming in for a very specific degree. They have very specific interests in the industry. I actually just checked some of our participants, and I see a lot of familiar names that I'm really excited that are here with us right now, and they'll be starting up with us in fall. But get excited about this program and be genuine and authentic in your answers. So we'll go a little further on now. So we'll go to the side of now being approved for F1 visa. It is time to then travel into the US and begin your academic program. Generally speaking, all of the students in this panel today, as well as most students who are traveling into the US to seek a degree from an institution will be an F1. Student J1 students are exchange visitors. So students have a home institution and another country and are coming in for a semester or an academic year. But either way, whether F1 or J1, do be sure to travel in no more than 30 days from the start of your program. Any earlier than that, you might be refused entry into the US. You will 100% not be admitted as an F1 student if you are admitted earlier than 30 days. So you'd still have to exit, re-enter. So again, it's important that you do take note of that earliest entry date on your I-20 and arrive no earlier than 30 days before the start of your program. Now work restrictions. This part is very important to F1 students, and it's incredibly important that you do pay attention to these specific restrictions for work when you do arrive in the US. Traditionally speaking, working off campus without authorization from the US government is illegal for an F1 student. Unfortunately, F1 students cannot take up part-time positions off campus. They can't like work in restaurants or as retail associate, but there are a few different instances in which F1 students are able to gain that experience when in the US. Number one is an international student or an F1 student can work on campus in a part-time capacity. So this is no more than 20 hours per week. I can tell you at LIM College, we do hire several different student positions. In my office, I do hire different graduate student ambassadors and undergraduate student ambassadors as well that assist us with events and visits of families and tours, all of that good stuff. But we do hire different student assistants or student workers throughout the institution. So it is possible to secure an on-campus position once you have begun on campus, as well as we'll talk about this a little later on in the presentation, but there is the option for CPT or curricular practical training, which will allow you to intern. So it will allow you to complete an internship experience external from your academic study that is an enhancement of the classroom knowledge that you are gaining. And if it is a paid opportunity via CPT, F1 students are eligible to be paid. So those are the two opportunities during study. Any dependent, so if you are bringing an F2 or J2 dependent, so any spousal dependent or any child, they are not permitted to work at all on or off campus under any circumstances. So do keep that in mind regarding dependents. but do keep in mind off-campus work is generally illegal without CPT authorization, and working on campus is 100% a possibility. All right. And so as an F1 student, your sole role in traveling to the US is to study. You are coming to the US to earn a specific degree. You're looking to gain that knowledge, gain that experience, and study. So you do need to be sure that you do have a presence on your campus. International students must be physically present in the US for classes. Even if you do have some of your classes online, your institution will have specific requirements for in-classroom study or credit hours that you must be taking in person. We do need to see our F1 students in person on a weekly basis. We need to see that you are attending classes, that you are actively participating. So it is very important that you do have a presence on your campus and that you are attending classes. Again, you're in the US to earn this degree, and if all is well, you're feeling well, do be sure to attend all of your classes. Travel is allowed during school breaks. Life happens. If there's ever an emergency, you can work with the DSO at your institution for a travel endorsement to leave the country. Do be sure, I always tell the students here at LIM to communicate that with the appropriate dean of their department, as well as with their instructors, to ensure anything that might be missed. But we do really recommend for students to limit any travel to school breaks. So that very traditional winter break between fall and spring semester, the summer break if you're off for summers, or the weeks in between each semester. Do try to limit travel to break periods only unless emergencies happen. And always ensure that you are a full-time student throughout the academic year. At LIM College, for undergraduate students, it's a minimum of 12 credit hours. At the graduate level, it's a minimum of 9 credit hours, but do be sure that you are enrolled full-time and meeting the specific full-time requirements at your institution. It is also important that you're maintaining good academic standing and academic progress. Most institutions across the US, if not all, will have a policy for academic standing in which your grades must be meeting a specific level each academic term or semester. So at LIM, which I'm pretty sure it's pretty similar to other institutions across the US, at the undergraduate level, we require that our students are maintaining a 2.0 GPA, which is just at about a C average. Although we'd love to see you much higher than that, we do require maintaining at least that 2.0. And at the graduate level, we do require students are maintaining a 3.0 or higher, so a B average at the minimum. Most institutions, if you drop below that GPA requirement, will put you on what's called academic probation for a semester. And then if you do not bring your GPA above that minimum by the end of your probationary semester, they'll dismiss you from the institution. And with that, for F1 students would go the termination of your F1 status as well. So do be sure to be attending classes, participating, getting your work done, reaching out when needed, and maintaining that good academic standing as you progress through your program.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, George. Now, for the next topic is something I already slightly mentioned in the previous slides as well. That's social media checks. So you might already heard that now with your application, you might be asked for your social media handles in the past 5 years. So US visa officers can review public social media profiles to verify identity, intent, and consistency. Something to reiterate here is that they need to be public. You cannot hide your social media profiles. Also, content that contradicts the state's purpose of travel, shows ties to the US, or includes concerning behavior might raise red flags or even get your visa rejected. And students are also advised to maintain professional, honest, and consistent profiles. George, did you already see students whose social medias were checked after or before their interview?
100%. Thank you, Saleh, for including this in today's webinar. This is 100% the pink elephant, I feel, in every room when we're discussing the F1 visa process at this moment in time. But yes, at LAM, we have had some students recently go up for interview and be required to show their social media. They were required to move all their profiles to public. It's not happening during the interview. It seems that it's post-interview process. So students are going in for that traditional interview. They're then with the DS-160 submitting their social media profiles. And then about 3 to 4 days, up to a week later, they're receiving a final decision. We've even had some students who have gone up for the interview and have been verbally approved by the consular officer, which we have historically seen for many years. But the now consular officer is mentioning that they're up for social media vetting, and as long as that does clear, then they're good to go. I agree that honesty is the best policy. Open your profiles, make everything public. Don't hide anything. Don't try to delete anything from recent posts. Um, you know, show them everything. And generally, it's a seems to be a pretty seamless process at the moment, and the results are coming back rather quickly. We'd love for it to be a much quicker process, but normally about 3 to 4 days after the interview.
Definitely, honesty and openness will definitely help. We also have other advice, such as prepare a list of social media usernames and handles you used in the past 5 years. We heard of students being called by a visa officer asking for their social media account names and asking to make them public. Now, will each and everyone will be asked to make them public when they're not? We cannot be sure. So make sure you don't get a visa rejection just because you hid your profile. Update your privacy settings on those accounts to public. Also remember that once you update them to public, depending on the social media handle, it takes a bit of time for it to become public. So if you're preparing for your visa journey now, make them public today. Do not wait for your visa interview. That will also help your chances. Avoid deleting content or suddenly changing settings just before applying. Doing so might raise suspicion. Imagine if you did absolutely nothing wrong and there has been a complaint about your house and police comes in and you start hiding random magazines that had nothing to do with anything. That just looks suspicious and might raise questions. So just don't start using settings to hide posts and so on. Review your posts carefully, however, and remove or archive anything that could be interpreted as hostile or extremist. We were talking with George before this webinar. In the first place, it's not only about removing something hostile, but be nice to each other and don't post anything hostile in the first place, really. Now, content should reflect intent. Don't worry if it doesn't, but an international student's social media presence should constantly align with their state reasons to entering the US. Their online activity should reflect genuine academic interest, engagement with their chosen field, or a clear focus of educational goals. And posts such as suggesting long-term plans to work, immigrate permanently, or engage in activities not permitted under US visa conditions, like unauthorized employment, can raise red flags during the vetting process. Even jokes or casual comments can be misinterpreted. So you know what they say, having a sense of humor is a sign of intelligent person, but you wouldn't joke with a police officer. Neither you should joke here because jokes can be taken very literate. Now, also something to remember is that really be careful with what you put, because we did see students where, for example, it was a Facebook post where a student is saying a whole speech about how he sees his friends in US working for Uber Eats, and that should really work, when in reality, just because somebody does it, it doesn't mean it's legal. So make sure you look at your posts and what you're doing, as well as check your facts. Avoid controversial and misleading posts. Content that suggests fraudulent intentions, political extremism, or long-term immigration plans, as mentioned. And students should build a positive digital footprint, but don't overdo it either. Don't just pose anywhere pretending that you're volunteering. That's quite obvious as well. And highlight academic achievements, community involvement, and extracurricular interests. Before we go to CPT and OPT, George, I just wanted to ask you if you had anything else to add with the social media.
Yeah, I think, what we had just mentioned with being open, upfront, being as positive as possible. I would hope any student ready to pursue education in the US were posting positive content and, definitely being nice and friendly. I know at LIM we have a great amount of students who come in with somewhat of a social media presence already. They're very creative. They're really use their social media platforms to emphasize their interest in the industry. And I think that's great. If you do have, a strong profile that does show a great interest toward the program of the industry, it could help you in that case for sure. But I think just being open, honest, as you move through the process is always the best policy. I see we have some great questions in the Q&A, and I know we have some time later on in the session for Q&A as well, but I do want to address one I see regarding social media. Sujata is asking, what will happen if I am not using any social media? So that is a great question. So if you don't have any active social media profiles in the past 5 years, you can let the consular officer know or submit that on your DS-160 that it's not applicable to you, that you do not have any social media profiles. But again, honesty is the best policy here. So if you maybe created a Twitter 5 years ago or an X, whatever we're calling it these days, or if you have an Instagram but you never use it, still give them that username or that information, even if you are not actively using it. But if you legitimately do not have any social media, and they couldn't find anything if they were to search for social media profiles on your behalf, then you can let them know that it's just not applicable to you. All
Wonderful.
right,
Thank you so much, George. And now, do you mind walking us quickly through the CPT and OPT options for
let's
international
do it.
students?
My favorite part. Excellent. So let's talk about both CPT and OPT, which I know are very important benefits to our F1 students who come to study in the US. So number one, let's talk about CPT. So CPT is curricular practical training. This curricular practical training essentially grants work authorization to F1 students to complete internships. These internships need to be a cooperative experience. I know at LAM, we 100% make it a cooperative experience in which your employer is in direct communication with the college. They're letting us know about the times and your reporting and what you're doing. And it's a very cooperative experience between the institution and the internship site or the employer. And again, it is practical training that's directly related to your degree program. So it's essentially an enhancement of the classroom knowledge that you're already gaining within the classroom. I can tell you at LIM, our programs are all very practical, very hands-on, and the internship for all of our programs is already incorporated into the degree, but it really does allow our students to take that theoretical or that classroom knowledge and just truly put it into practice and put it into place in an actual career. So again, it does need to be related directly to your degree program. CPT does allow for students to be paid. Internship opportunities, unfortunately, in the US, they can be unpaid. But if it is a paid opportunity, our international students are eligible to be paid through that opportunity as well. I don't have to go into the extensive process for that, but once granted CPT authorization, you'll then apply for an SSN, Social Security number, get an EAD card, but you can be paid for CPT. For the most part, for undergraduate students, you do have to have completed at least one academic year at your institution in order to be eligible for CPT. So students who are coming in as a first time in college or a first year freshman generally do have to wait until their second academic year, we call it their sophomore year in the US, to complete internship. Graduate degrees are a little different. If your program does require an internship in your first academic year, it's possible to begin interning a little earlier on, but undergraduate students, it is very specific to having attended on F1 status for one academic year prior to being eligible for CPT. All right. And so OPT. So OPT is another wonderful benefit for F1 students. OPT stands for Optional Practical Training. Optional Practical Training, once granted, does allow students to remain in the US for a 12-month period after completing their degree program to again work for a US brand or company. Traditionally, this is a full-time position and it most often is a paid opportunity as well. For the most part, OPT is post completion. Students are completing it after they've graduated. In some circumstances, you can be granted pre-completion OPT, which does allow you to begin OPT before you've completed your degree program, but that's a rare circumstance. It doesn't happen as often. Most students are completing OPT as post completion. I think it's also important to mention here as well the STEM OPT extension. So if you are attending an associate bachelor's or master's degree program or doctoral level degree program in the US, all students are eligible to qualify for a 12-month period of optional practical training or OPT post graduation. However, if you are attending a STEM designated program, upon reaching the completion of your 12-month period, it is possible to then apply for an extension of up to 24 months, which STEM students are eligible for a potential of 36 months of OPT. The 3 years, again, is not granted all in one slice. It's two different slices, 12 months plus an additional possible 24. But it's a great opportunity, again, for F1 students. But OPT is that post-completion um, post-completion work authorization after graduation. All right, we'll talk quickly about the differences between CPT and OPT. So CPT again is done during your program, curricular practical training and internship while you are studying to enhance your classroom knowledge. OPT for the most part is done post completion of your program. In some cases, you can be authorized for pre-completion OPT, but the way I like to differentiate is CPT is during the program, OPT is after you've graduated or you've completed your program. In order for CPT authorization to happen, you must first be offered the internship. You must have secured the opportunity. Once you have an offer letter in hand from the internship site, depending on your institution, students here at LIM will work with our Office of International Student Services and our Office of Career and Internship Services to receive that CPT authorization. But the CPT can only come after the internship has been secured. OPT is a little different. You can apply for OPT and begin your OPT period without a formal job offer on hand. Now, what you do need to do in that case is have a job offer and a position started within the first 90 days of your OPT period. So you get 3 months. So you essentially will begin your OPT, you have then 3 months to secure a position, and then you'll work within that position for an initial 12 months. If you do have a position before you actually apply for OPT, that's excellent. We see many students who do that as well. You can begin your position as soon as your OPT is granted, but you do have up to 90 days to then secure a position. The authorization time for CPT, it does go through a designated school official at your institution. It's generally a quicker process. At LAM, I can say normally from start to finish, once you secure the internship to receiving the I-20 with CPT authorization, normally about 5 or so days, maybe a week's time. USCIS, they say it can take up to 90 days. You do have to, for OPT, apply to the US government. We do assist our students alongside their OPT applications, but ultimately it is the US government that is granting your eligibility. And again, the process can take up to 90 days to receive formal approval. When it comes to OPT, you can apply up to 90 days before you graduate. You can apply up to 60 days after you graduate. We'll generally tell students within that 90-day period before you graduate, it's a great time to go ahead and apply for that OPT so that you have that benefit already prepared once you've graduated. OPT and CPT do both allow for paid opportunities. I would say OPT is more than likely going to be a paid opportunity. Most of these positions I feel do pay students. CPT could go really either way. Sometimes unpaid opportunities might be a position that is leading you in the direction you're looking to go, or it could be with an organization or a company or brand that you've only ever dreamed of working with. So it might, be a really great opportunity, but it can be paid as well. CPT, we do really encourage students to limit it to part-time, especially during the semesters in which you are enrolled in a full-time course load. This can be a lot to manage, both full-time internship and full-time school. So we do recommend limiting to part-time during school breaks. So the summer is a nice period for F1 students if you are off in the summertime. During that time, you can, intern at more of a full-time rate. If you're working on campus in a student position and your office is willing to keep you over a break period as well, it's possible to up your hours to full-time as well. OPT, again, generally a full-time position post-graduation. An impact on OPT. So with CPT, if you do complete 12 months of full-time CPT, so if you're a graduate student, you begin your program in your first semester, you've secured an internship, you're in that position full-time for a 12-month period, that's when we do need to start issuing pre-completion OPT, and it could begin eating into the period of OPT afterwards. So again, it's always important to just maintain part-time CPT until you do reach that OPT period. But OPT again is up to 12 months. Again, it's full-time work experience for the most part, and it can be extended if your program is a STEM designated program.
Wonderful. Thank you. This has been very informative and very helpful. And now, George, I wanted to invite you, while we still have a few minutes left of this webinar, to speak about truth and myths that we currently hear in the market regarding the F1 visas and F1 students. So one thing I keep on hearing in the market is I can work full-time on my F1 visa whenever I want. Is that correct?
Unfortunately, absolutely not. Students are not eligible to work for the most part while enrolled in their programs. Again, the F1 visa is a non-immigrant visa intended for students to be coming to the US to study. Your main role here in the US is to study and earn a degree. It's possible to gain CPT authorization. You could work part-time on campus as well. So work isn't fully off the table. You do also have the OPT post graduation, but no other options other than part-time on campus, CPT, and OPT.
I think that's very clear. Thank you so much for clarifying for everyone. Now, another thing, I can skip classes as long as I pass my exams and other tests. I see you covering your ears. What do you think about this?
No, you must be in class. I can tell you, at LIM specifically, we're a very small personalized institution. Our classes right now are about an average of 11 or 12 students with an 8-to-1 faculty student ratio. We take attendance. We actually do record attendance in each one of our classes, and we send our attendance to the registrar every single day. So we're actually tracking student attendance at LIM. And if students aren't attending classes, we reach out. We see where you are. How's everything going? If you're not in class, we assume the worst. Again, you are here to study. You're here to be attending your classes, become a fully engaged student on your campus. So do be sure to attend your classes. It is important that we do record attendance for you, regardless of your institution. We do need to see you in classes attending and actively participating as well.
Very clear. Now, we hear students saying, I want to study in the US after graduation. Sorry, I want to stay in the US after graduation. Is that a good thing to say to a visa officer?
Unfortunately, again, I will say no here as well. The F1 visa, again, is intended for academic study. You don't want to lead this consular officer to believe that your plan is to do anything than to come to the US to gain knowledge, study, and gain your degree, And then you'll take all that knowledge and return to your home country to then continue building the industry or build a career for yourself in your home country. But again, the intention of the F1 visa is for academic study. So do not lead the consular officer to believe that you have any other intent other than to come temporarily, earn your degree, and then return home.
Wonderful. Now, the next one. Agents or friends can coach me for my interview word for word. That's perhaps not a sentence I hear a lot, but I see students looking for coaching and agents coaching students all over the place. Now, George, how do you feel about students answering questions word to word from scripts?
Yeah, I agree with what we were mentioning earlier on in this session that you really do want to be genuine in your answers. You really want to show why you chose the institution that you did, why this degree program, how it fits in with your plans for the future, and essentially why are you looking to study this program in the US and why is it not available in your home country? If you're too coached or you're word for word, or it sounds like you're reciting off of a script, you're not going to come off genuine to the officer, and it could lead them to believe that you aren't as interested in your program or that you might have other intentions than just studying in the US. So I would say be genuine. I love to meet with students for mock F1 interviews. I think some of the folks in this room I've met with before as well. You know, my goal here is always to ensure that students are genuine but remaining brief and positive in their answers. And this is something you're excited to pursue. So, it's good to have a little nerves or, a little of that anxiousness, but be genuine in your answers. I think that's the most important advice we could give.
Absolutely. So just because my friend went for a visa interview and passed it, it's not enough for me then to repeat the exactly same thing, isn't it?
No, be true to yourself. Be true to the answer that is for you. And if it's similar, put it in your own words. And again, be genuine and spontaneous in that response. And confident as well.
Absolutely. So visa officers don't look at documents, so they're not really important. Is that correct?
Oh, visa officers 100% will look at your documents. There are certain circumstances where they will ask about your funding or your sponsor, and they'll ask to look at those documents specifically. While these interviews are very brief, do not ever take for granted the importance of all the documents that you've submitted. So it is very important that you do ensure that these will be viewed later on.
Absolutely. And I would add here, don't start giving documents to a visa officer that you were not asked for. If you are not asked for a document, but you wanted to be perfectly prepared and you brought extra, only give them when asked and not just because you felt like giving a document to a visa officer, as they just either won't care or will see it as you hiding something. Right, and that concludes our Mythbuster session. I know we're slightly running over time. However, we do have a few very interesting questions. George, if you could take them. And the first one is, will my visa status be affected if I take a medical leave?
Yeah, great question. So, number one, I would mention this would fall in that category of an emergency. So, if you do find yourself mid-semester, you're having any kind of health issues, or you have an emergency and you're injured, um, do be sure to communicate with your institution, number one. If you do take a medical leave, more than likely your DSO will place on your CVIS record that you're taking an authorized early withdrawal, that you're an AEW. You'll be leaving the country, taking care of this ailment, and then your plan would be to return back. That should be fine. I would, again, ensure that you communicate directly with the designated school official at your institution, ensure that all of the travel endorsements, everything is set in place for you to leave. There is a specific requirement regarding if you're out of the country for 5 months. You might need to have a new I-20 issued to you. You might need to supply new funding for that. As long as your F1 visa is still valid, you should be fine to travel back in. But communicate this directly with your DSO, we're prepared to handle situations of this specific nature.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Now, there is a question. What happens if my country is added to a travel ban list while I'm studying?
Yeah, that is a great question and probably coming to top of mind right now more than ever before. Again, I would say to communicate directly with your institution and the designated school official at your institution. They have direct access to your I-20 record in CVIS, and they can see if it, for any reason, has been terminated or if it's still in active status. There's also a link via the US government that you can check your F1 visa to ensure that it is still in valid status as well. So I would say stay in contact with your institution, and of course, stay alert to any additional notifications in that regard as well.
Wonderful. Now, there's another question. Please share the PPT. The PPT will be shared to everyone after this webinar together with the recording, so don't worry about that. George, not really a question, but do you have any advice for students who currently do not see any visa slots open in their region?
Yeah, this question has been coming up a lot to me and within students coming to LIM. As we all know, there was a hiatus on the F1 visa interview scheduling from late May until about mid-June. For the most part, across the world, we have seen interview slots reopen. Some regions in Southern Asia still are not seeing a multitude of appointments. So I'm telling students just to continue to check back, check daily, contact the embassy or consulate as well. In the event that you are able to schedule an interview and it's later than your entry term begins, work with the DSO at your institution. I've been providing students with expedited visa appointment letters. They can apply for an emergency appointment and hopefully move that to an earlier date. I would say about 50% of the time it works. The other 50% maybe not, but contact your institution, stay in touch. Looks like visa appointments are opening, so definitely stay tuned.
Wonderful. Thank you, George, for these wonderful answers. And thank you to every attendee and participant of the webinar for such insightful and good questions that helps not only you, but your colleagues also on this webinar. And as we're running already slightly over with the time, I would just like to ask George, very last question. Any last advice for students that are perhaps nervous before their interview or waiting for it or nervous on their visa journey? Any last words or any advice for them?
100%. Stay in contact with your institution. For anyone coming to LIM, I know I again see a lot of familiar names here. Ask us your questions. Stay in touch with us. For the most part, institutions will be very open about mock F1 visa interviews. I know in uni meets with students for these different types of counseling as well. So ask us your questions, prepare yourself, do research on your institution. And again, remember, this is something that you're excited about. It is a genuine opportunity that will better you for the future. So it's good to have those nerves, but let it excite you at the same time.
Wonderfully said. Thank you so much, George. Thank you for the last advice and thank you for this webinar. I hope it was very informative for everyone. It was definitely for me. Thank you everyone for joining. Good luck with your journey and have a lovely day.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks all. Take care.